I think there are a few misconceptions when it comes to the sin of envy, some of which I will go over in today's episode. But sometimes the sin of envy can sometimes be linked together with the sin of wrath. And some people could question, oh, should it even be in the seven deadly sins? Because it can be similar feelings. But I'm going to differentiate the two, relate the two a lot. This is probably going to be the episode where I talk the most about another sin in an episode about one of the seven deadly sins. But it's different enough that, of course, it is included in the seven sins, and I will kind of debunk some of the theories regarding it, and I will, of course, go through the theology relating to it, and how it's linked to wrath, but how it's also at the same time able to stand out on its own as a different type of feeling and a different type of sin living within you. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it. I make a podcast episode every single day for 365 days. You will be hated for speaking the truth.
You definitely have like an X-ray goggles on, where you can see someone's aura.
A house divided against itself shall not stand. Matthew chapter 12, verse 25.
If you want to make something of yourself, forget your political beliefs.
Because different believers experience God in different ways, different non-believers need different explanations to see God as real. Things that make you angry suck you in.
Satan's plan fails, right? And God's plan prevails.
So the sin of envy can be described as when someone lacks something someone else has and either desires it or wishes the other lacked it. So I'm just going to kind of go straight into what I was talking about in the intro, which is wrath and envy go hand in hand. But also at the same time, they don't have to. So you can be angry at someone, wrathful towards someone, without being jealous of them. They could have just done something bad to you and you got mad at them for it. You don't have to be jealous of them to be angry at them. But at the same time, jealousy provokes anger. If you are jealous of someone, it's very quick to be angry at them, right? And look for ways to take revenge on them. So that's how anger and jealousy relate. And that's why sometimes you think, oh, is envy enough to be something separate? Because most often than not, it provokes an anger anyway. So why not include it as a part of the sin of wrath? But first of all, I don't argue with the Christian theology. I think it makes sense. And of course, I'll go over the specifics of why it makes a lot of sense, why it's something specifically separate, because I think it is a different feeling. But there are also worlds where you don't actually have to be angry to be jealous. You don't have to be angry at the person to be jealous of them. It's still sin. Sometimes you can use envy as a way to move yourself forward in a similar way to how you can use anger as a way to help yourself do better. You see other people succeeding, it can be a motivator to improve yourself. Sometimes there is actually a positive thing where you don't actually get angry at someone for whatever they have. But envy can also be internal, right? And of course, I'll get through it. I'm going to just kind of leave it at that for this little segment talking about it. But sometimes envy is the pain at the sight of another's good fortune. So let's talk specifically about when envy is destructive, when it is something truly horrible that goes against all of God's teachings for us, right? Envy is when you're coveting. You're coveting something that someone has. It's usually about material possessions. For the most part, it's about like physical things like a car or a house or whatever, and it's all over social media. Social media is such a big provoker of envy and of jealousy. It's a very, very toxic thing. That's part of the reason why social media is so toxic. But it can also be because of a quality, a skill, or an achievement that a person has had. More often than not, it's about possessions, because possessions you can actually see, like the actual thing you can see, it's tangible. But sometimes in extreme cases, it can be about the status of a person, of course, what they've actually done, what they act like, their qualities that you don't have that you want. It is a form of coveting. And of course, if you know the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not covet the things of your neighbor, that is one of the 10 Commandments, one of the most important fundamental teachings and laws to follow, because God says this because it's about the sin of envy. It's about how wanting the things of other people can very quickly to you hating them for having them, because you start to think that you deserve it. It starts to include anger, and at times it starts to include pride. Of course, pride I'll talk about tomorrow. But like, it starts with envy. It starts with that coveting desire, that desire to have what another person has. And it can very, very quickly spiral into you actually start to hate them for it and you want the worst for them, or you even, in worst cases, start to sabotage them, start to try and get them to not have those things anymore because you think you deserve them over them. You think you deserve it more than they do. And it really is a lesson in coveting, because that is why God advises us against coveting, because it can quickly spiral out of control, just as anger spirals out of control. An envious feeling spirals out of control to then you starting to hurt other people to get your way, to achieve the things that you want, and to get what they have and steal it for yourself, basically, because you think you deserve it. But envy is a slow emotion. Unlike lust, which can kind of quickly come and go, it's a quick feeling of pleasure. Envy is a very slow emotion. It works very slowly. It starts with one thing. It's a slow, small, deeper feeling in you, deeper feeling in your heart, a deeper resentment that slowly builds up the more you see someone succeed, especially if it's a person you don't like in the first place. It can even be people that you do like, that you are friends with, that you are close with. You start to see them succeed. It starts with something small, and then it slowly grows and grows and grows. And eventually, if left unchecked, if you don't recognize when you are in a jealous, envious moment, it then becomes something truly destructive, where then it leads to the extremities of you trying to hurt the other person, or you going and doing even more extra stuff for yourself. So what differentiates anger, wrath from envy, what makes envy stand out on its own, is because it is a different feeling. It is a deeper kind of harboring, slow but sure jealousy and you're coveting, versus rather you're just pure hating. The coveting can become something that becomes hatred, but it starts with you wanting this thing and you having a desire for this thing. You don't have it, someone else has it. And slowly it gets worse. It's a very slow to work emotion. Other sins in the seven deadly sins, they can kind of be very quick to hit you. Envy, it's not going to be something like that, right? You see someone with a fancy car, you're not going to think that you want to kill them right away. Obviously not, right? It starts slow. It starts with that. And then you start to see some other successes they have. And then you start to feel, like I want that. I want a life like that, right? And in the good case of envy, it promotes being able to actually improve yourself a little bit, right? Like, I think, that's where the positive of social media lies. Some people, they see other people succeed and they want to succeed as well. But I think more often than not, it just leads people to shame. It leads people to hating themselves. That is the main differentiator from envy and anger. Envy can really, really lead you to having a lack of self-worth, a lower self-esteem, cause deep emotional pain within yourself, blaming yourself versus blaming others. And yes, it can sometimes be in the form of anger, but it can sometimes also be in just the form of pure depression, a pure passiveness, like a pure just you seeing other people succeed, you being like, oh, I don't deserve it. Sometimes it's prideful and you think that you should deserve it, and you then try and hurt other people to try and get there and to try and steal what is theirs. Or it can be something that you just kind of get deeper into your shell. You internalize it way too much and you overthink it way too much, and then you start to feel worse about yourself, being like, man, they have all these things, but they worked hard to deserve it. I'm not good enough because they have it and I don't. And it leads to a lot of despair, and it leads to a lot of sorrows and a lot of misery. That's a lot of the negative of social media. And it provokes a lot of that feeling. So there's a tiny bit of positive, similar to how there's a tiny bit of positive with anger, but the reason why it's sin is because God tells us just how bad it can get, just how exponentially bad it can get, whether it is us hating other people, seeking revenge, vengeance, or whatever, seeking to have what is theirs for ourselves, and starting to feel, the second you start to feel like you hate the person for their good fortune, as was quoted. It's an Aristotle quote. It's more of a philosophical quote rather than a Christian theological quote, but it still makes sense because you're starting to envy them, right? You're starting to look at their good fortune and say, oh man, I want that and I wish that was me, right? Starting to put yourself in their shoes and fantasizing about a life you could have, but a life you don't have. And it can provoke anger towards the person, or it can provoke a deep sense of worthlessness inside of you. And that's obviously very bad, because that's only going to make it's going to make the negatives kind of be heightened even more. You're not going to go and pursue things and try and be a success of yourself. You're going to just kind of sit deeper, fall deeper and deeper into your shell, into your isolation, into your self-loathing and hatred. And it's only going to make things worse. And it's going to make those feelings of envy worse. So that's how envy can be a lot different from the feeling of wrath. It can be internal. It can be something that provokes a lot of shame and guilt more than just a pure hatred and want to hurt someone or be violent towards someone or take something, have vengeance towards them for whatever reason. Envy can provoke those feelings, but it doesn't always have to provoke those feelings, which is why it is distinctly different from wrath. And it can provoke wrath, the need to take someone down because you feel you deserve it more than them. I explained that. It doesn't have to always provoke wrath. It can provoke a self-hatred, a self-loathing. And that's I think sometimes a little bit deeper and a little bit more harder to overcome than hurting other people. Like if other people, like it's easy. You can just delete social media and you don't have to look at a bunch of people promoting their quote unquote special lives. First of all, it's all fake anyway. But like and actually that's a good point that it is fake. I'm going to kind of be getting into that. I have a couple of Bible verses here that I want to quote as a way to kind of emphasize the point, of course. But like the envy can be something very different. Let's go straight to it. Proverbs 27, chapter 27, verse 4. Wrath is cruel, anger is overwhelming, but who can stand before jealousy? Now that's a deep one. That's a deep one. It's basically saying like it can get worse. Like whatever was bad about anger and wrath, which I talked about yesterday, jealous feelings can make it even worse. And it can heighten those feelings. So then that's another differentiator of envy. You can have a wrath towards someone, but if you have a wrath and an envy, or a wrath provoked by an envy, or a jealousy towards something they have or something they do or whatever, then, and if you're not able to control it, you can be a monster. Like we as humans, we can be absolute demons and devils at times. We can be absolute just diabolical messes and monsters, just creating chaos and hurting other people in the worst ways imaginable. It can be something truly destructive in an even greater way. So it's a very interesting illustration of the point of envy being a very, very tough sin to deal with. James chapter 4, verses 2 to 3. You desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. So that is the end of envy, right? The end of envy is you don't have something that you cannot have, and you're just having jealousy, and it provokes you to violence, to murder. And it would be very easy if you weren't jealous, if you were truly just in a moment where you wanted to actually genuinely improve yourself. You look at someone that has a lot of great successes and you feel inspired, you want to ask them questions so that you can get there rather than trying to take them down. You try and let them help you, because the secret is a lot of people that are successful, they want to help you and they want to help others get there as well. This is the truth. It's a secret truth. But you sometimes ask the wrong questions and you do the wrong things, and we kind of fall into these exact behaviors. So again, it talks about how envy can just kind of take hold of us. It's a slow process, but once it does, you kind of lose that learning mindset. But the best thing to do if someone has something that you don't have is to ask them. Ask them how they got it, or ask someone else in a similar position how they got it. If it's someone on social media and you can't reach them, find someone who kind of is also there, right? Is also there, that's a little bit more accessible, and ask them, right? There are platforms where you can truly talk to people who have made it in whatever thing you're trying to get to, and you can ask them what they did to get there. And that's how you can improve, and that's how you can actually, in a positive way, in a good light, create a great relationship with the person and still one day get to those things that you want, those things you desire, rather than going straight to the hatred, going straight to the looking to bring them down, or the self-loathing, which is also a very destructive thing. It's actually an interesting point that it's like, it's a very practical thing. Like just try and find the answers to how you can get there as well, and it's pretty accessible. A lot of the times it is pretty accessible if you put the work in, whatever thing you're trying to achieve and whatever thing you're coveting and you're looking towards. So it is an interesting teaching. And the last verse I have here is Proverbs chapter 6, verse 34. For jealousy makes a man furious, and he will not spare when he takes revenge. So it just kind of continues to illustrate the all-encompassing destructive nature of jealousy, that we will not cease, like we will not spare when we take revenge on someone that we're truly jealous with. If you let that feeling kind of get to its worst state, you'll be so mad, and you can try and imagine just how just vengeful you'll feel. You won't even spare anyone. You won't have any mercy on them, and that is the worst of it. And that's why it is sin, like all the other deadly sins. If left unchecked, if you can't control your emotions, and the extremity of it is just complete destruction, complete hurting of other people in many, many terrible ways, and of course, subsequently, the hurting of yourself. What God advises us to do is to, of course, like, not be jealous, not covet. That's why it was a rule from the beginning to not covet, because God knows just how kind of susceptible we are to it. Social media, I've talked a little bit about it. Social media is the worst way. It's so many jealousies. A couple of secrets, a couple of hidden truths about jealousy. Most of the time, your jealousy is not merited, because you actually wouldn't want the life that the person that you're supposedly jealous over has, because their life actually isn't as good as they're portraying it. That's social media in a nutshell. That's a big truth. Big truth. That most of the time, things you're jealous of actually aren't really worth it. You actually don't really want it. You don't really know what you want. You think you know what you want. And that's why coveting can be so bad, because coveting can give you the trick in your mind that you think you know what you want, but actually what that person has is a miserable life. They just, whatever thing they're portraying to make you jealous of them is just like the good parts of their life. But in reality, a lot of them are actually miserable, that are out here portraying and parading certain aspects of their life, making you jealous. So that's a secret. And that's a secret that the world, the devil, doesn't want you to know, but that's what God tells us, that God knows best for us. We don't know best for ourselves. What we want is just materialistic. It is just all things that will pass in this world. They will come and go. It is just dust. But God knows what we want more than even we know what we want. So that's why he advises us against it. Because sometimes you can end up in these destructive feelings over something that actually is meaningless, that is something that it just doesn't even matter. That you actually maybe you even end up having the thing that you coveted, and it actually isn't even that good. You didn't even enjoy it anyway. That is an important secret to note, that God knows best for us. God's will for our life is what is best for us rather than what we want. So when we partake in feelings of coveting, feelings of envy, it is a selfishness. It is a what we want, thinking about truly what we want, and it is a prioritizing the materialistic stuff, carnal things in this world over more heavenly gifts that God gives us. Because even if you want something someone else has, you also have great talents, and you need to find them, right? You have great talents. Everyone has a talent of some kind that is very prosperous and can be very fruitful if they lean into it, but they need to give it to God first and try and find it, rather than wanting and coveting the talents of others. So it's interesting how it kind of works, that in the end, it actually kind of means nothing anyway. You're going against God, of course, just as you are with all the other sins. You are trying to be selfish and acting on your own will rather than what God wants from you. And of course, when you make your own decisions and act on what you want, it will only lead you to destruction as well. That's why God advises us against it. If we worship him and we obey him, he will grant us great gifts. He will not give us the thing that we're envying and coveting, because he knows that thing will actually probably secretly destroy us in the end anyway. He'll give us better things, more fruitful things, more heavenly gifts that will be longer lasting than just the mediocre materialistic things of this world, which is so often the very things that we are coveting for. So similar to all of the other sins, at the end of the day, you got to trust in God, because when you trust in yourself, when you trust in the things of this world, it leads to envy. And when you trust in the things of this world, it will lead to misery and despair in the long run for you. And secretly, that is the case with envy. That most of the time, it kind of isn't even merited. Like, you shouldn't even be jealous of someone. There was another verse, I didn't have it written down here, but there was another verse when I was looking at good Bible verses to put into this episode talking about that illustrate the feeling of envy. There was one that talks about how I think it was in the Psalms of David, how you shouldn't be don't be envious of evil people. Sometimes it's kind of fake, right? A lot of the times it's fake. Sometimes people are envious of people that are just bad people, but they have great gifts because they've been given the gifts, but actually they're not godly men, they're not godly people, they don't fear the Lord. They've been given gifts of this world because that was the devil's way of keeping them in their own little bubble, keeping them in their sin and in their misery, so that kind of they can continue to be in despair. So you shouldn't be envious of that type of a person, even if they have the thing or the quality or the skill, the achievement that you want, whatever it is that you're desiring. You shouldn't be envious of evil people. You should be envious in the good way of people that have spiritual gifts, that people that have the gift of prophecy, that are able to speak out the word of God in a great way, and use that envy in a good way, not in a negative way, to try and develop those gifts for yourself. That is good, I believe, in the sight of God. If we are leaning more into Him, into the spiritual gifts that He gives us, the heavenly gifts that He gives us, rather than the materialistic things of this world. And of course, giving it up to Him, letting Him run your life, letting Him do what is necessary in your life, rather than you trying to play God in similar ways that you play God when you're vengeful and have wrath and committing the sin of wrath. When you're committing the sin of envy is a similar type of feeling. You're trying to play God. You're trying to do this thing for yourself, or you're trying to hurt other people so that they don't have these things. But that is God's place. That is not your place. And I think God has a better plan for you in comparison to anything that you can ever want and ever desire. But it takes you loving others, and if someone has something you want, being, as James says, asking them questions, being honest and humble in front of them, trying to find the answers rather than going straight to hatred. And of course, by loving others, by giving it up to God, by learning to want the spiritual gifts more than the things of this world in the first place. And that's how you overcome the feeling of envy, which can, as described in the Proverbs, can really be something destructive if left unchecked, just like a lot of the other sins. It can be a desperation, and you have to avoid it, because once it gets to that like desperation, that's why I described it as a slow feeling. It starts very slow. It starts with like the small thing that is in your mind, and like, oh, they have this thing, I kind of want that thing. The end of it is, as described in the Proverbs, a revenge that is unlike no other, that you won't even spare them for a second. You won't have any mercy on them. But God will have mercy on them. He will have mercy on you. But you have to give it to God, right? Give it to Him, and understand that forgiveness is important, and not letting these feelings completely take you over and destroy your life is also super important. That is what God advises us against. So ask yourself these questions when it comes to envy. Are you on social media a lot, seeing a lot of people with their lifestyles, and you're thinking about what a great life you would have if you had that thing, whether it be the car, the house, the wife, whatever it may be, right? The family. It could be things like that too. It doesn't have to just be like a materialistic thing, as I described, right? The achievements, the awards, a quality, a skill, whatever. Like a feeling. You're like, oh, this person speaks very well. I wish I spoke that well. That's the beginning of envy. That is the beginning feeling of jealousy. So ask yourself, are you on social media? Are you in places where you're constantly seeing people that are in these spaces doing way better than you, and you're wanting these things? Do you find that you covet a lot of the things in this world? Do you find that you're constantly thinking about what it would be like if you had a lot of money and a lot of success and status and women and whatever? Do you find yourself constantly thinking about these things, these ideas? Do you find that as people around you start to get more successful, you start to feel a hatred towards them, a jealousy towards them? That's a very destructive thing as well. Do you feel like, or do you feel like you actually are supporting them through their growth and through their improvements? Are you confident in yourself, in your ability to get there, in God's ability to help you get there, or are you just kind of loathing in the fact that other people are getting there? Are you feeling feelings of self-worthlessness because of what you see other people doing? Do you feel the need sometimes to hurt people? Are you that far in? Think about it, right? Think about it. Do you feel sometimes you want to hurt people? Do you feel sometimes that other people don't deserve it? Do you feel sometimes that their success is not merited? The things that they have that you also want, that you deserve it more than them? Do you feel those feelings? Truly, be honest with yourself. I think I'll just be honest with myself. When it comes to like guys that are like streamers that play video games for a living and make a lot of money, I look at them and I'm like, well, what did they do to deserve the success, right? But there are many other things surrounding their lives that you don't see, right? Do you find that you are coveting people that probably don't deserve to be coveted for? You're jealous and envious of people that actually their lives aren't that good when you really look under the hood? Do you find that sometimes you're falling into that feeling as well? Do you find that your relationship with God is hurting because you're focused too much on materialistic things? Are you focused too much on materialistic things, or are you focused on God's will and what God wants from you? Do you pray to God about these things? Do you understand that you fall into a lot of these behaviors, or are you just kind of letting it pass you by? That's the slow build of envy, of the sin of envy. That's the slow build of it in your life. So ask yourself some of these questions and reflect on it. Truly think if you're actually being envious in your life, and ask yourself if it is going to help you or if it's going to hurt you. And most of the time it'll hurt you. Most of the time it will hurt you. Like, do you find that you even are miserable and desperate at times to get to a certain place that someone else has? Do you find that you truly do start to hate people for their good fortune? Ask yourself these questions, be truly honest with yourself, and pray on it to God. As in the other episodes of this 7 Deadly Sins series, if you are victim and falling into these sins, the secret is that in one way or another, each and every one of us at some point will fall into every single one of these sins. That's the secret. But you're only saved through faith in Jesus Christ and striving to do better and giving it to God that he may work great things within you and he may help you overcome the sins. Nothing you can do will ever overcome those sins on your own. It's only by giving it to God, and it's by leaning further into him, letting him run your life, that you may overcome these sins. So do you give it to God, or are you still just stuck in your own self-centered ways? Do you think too much about yourself, about what you want, or do you think, or are you very good at thinking about what God wants from you? Ask yourself these questions, and if you don't like the answers, it's pretty simple. You got to pray on it. You got to give it to God. You got to read the scripture, read words. I quoted a couple of them today, but there are many, many, many scriptures about each and every one of the 7 deadly sins, but of course, good amount about envy specifically as well, that you can read to try and do better and find some strategies to do better and to overcome these feelings. But give it to God and let him work the peace and the glory and the joy in your life, and let him bear the fruits that are better for you in the long run than whatever thing you might be coveting over in the moment. And give it to God, truly, and lean further into his teachings that you may overcome the sins that you're dealing with, if it is the sin of envy or if it is any of the other of the 7 deadly sins. So that's all I got to say for today. Truly reflect on it. Truly think about it. I hope I explained it as good as I possibly could have. I think I tried my best. It can be very easy to tie envy and wrath together, but they are two very specific and very different things, and I tried my best to differentiate them as much as I could. If I missed something, again, let me know in the comments. But I end this video asking for your support as always. I appreciate you for watching. Share the video. Share the video to someone who you think needs to hear some of these messages, and share the playlist of the 7 deadly sins to someone who you think will find it interesting, who you think needs to hear some of these messages about sin. And like the video yourself, and subscribe to the show on YouTube and follow on Spotify if you haven't yet. And I appreciate you for being here. Show your support in every way that you can. Spread these videos out in any way you can, because I'm trying my best here. I'm putting a lot of effort into these videos talking about the 7 deadly sins, because I think it's an interesting concept and I think it will help a lot of people. So if it's helped you, please let me know by showing your support. And if it's helped other people, by sharing it, you can help other people try and overcome a lot of these issues, and at least understand what sin is and understand when sin is sin, to truly be able to overcome them and do better and increase your faith and their faith in God and in Jesus Christ. Thank you for watching this episode, and I will see you tomorrow for the final episode of the 7 Deadly Sins series. Goodbye.